Yeah, second mention with the video for you. In this video, we're going to talk about the Mini 5, or the 5th generation of the iPad Mini here, going into 2022. Now, the Mini edition are up to the 6th edition, which is the latest Mini you can purchase on Apple's website. But the Mini 5 here has been around for almost 2 years since the 6th generation came out. Interestingly enough, the last time the iPad Mini 4th came out was back in 2015, and the iPad 5th generation came out in 2019, almost 4 years later when Apple released that. So it's kind of surprising that it took Apple almost 4 years to release this device here. And that's why we're going to talk about things like history around it, some of the hardware, camera, battery life, software performance, and things that it does support and it doesn't. And lastly, answer the big question: is the iPad Mini 5th generation worth it in a 22 or not? Now, let's talk about other things about this device. We briefly mentioned that it was released back in March of 2019 here. You have this 7.9-inch display here. Now, when it comes to things like camera here, it does have your back and front camera. On the back here, you have a 8 megapixel camera, so you can pretty much go ahead and take pictures, videos, slow-mo, time-lapse, and even also take square and panel mode pictures. So a lot of the things that you see on an iPhone 10s or S10s Max, it's similar sort of power that is inside this iPad, which is that A12 Bionic chip, and it does have that 6 gig of RAM, which again is pretty sufficient to run most applications nowadays. Now, this iPad does come in two different models. You can get it in the 64 gig or the 100 or 256 gig here. Depending on what you get, you're going to pay a little bit more, but it does have 64 gig, which was a base, and that 256 gig, which is probably better for most things here. Now, originally when this iPad came out, it did have a decent sized battery here, and it still does. It has that 5058 mAh, which gives you about good 7 to 8 hours of video playback, which is pretty much standard for most iPads, even the ones that recently came out here. So that's going to be some things about this iPad here. So it has an okay camera. If you think about the camera, we talked about that you had got almost 8 megapixel, which nowadays most is 12, and then you do have an upgraded front-facing camera from that 1.2 megapixel all the way to 7 megapixel front camera. So selfies definitely have improved from the previous generation of the iPad on this iPad itself here. And this kind of brings us to the next thing. What does this iPad support in terms of supportability? Now, you could connect it to AirPods. It does support AirPods. You can also use that 3.5 millimeter headphone if you did have those older generation of headphones, which seems to be better for soundless music if you're really interested in that. And the other thing about the iPad Mini 5th generation, that it does have support for the Apple Pencil, but the Apple Pencil it supports is the first generation of the Apple Pencil. If you have a second generation, unfortunately it doesn't support that on the Mini 5th generation here. So you can pair it up with the Apple Pencil, which really does make a big difference, because if you're looking to use it for note taking, your gaming, or simply just using it for task or even for design, this iPad is pretty much will be supported for most design apps like Procreate or any other popular graphic design apps that you use. And that kind of brings us to the major or the big question that we want to answer from you guys, is that you want to know is whether this iPad is worth it or not in 2022. And our simple answer is going to be yes, it is worth it for you in 2022. That's because it has support for the Apple Pencil. It is able to update to iOS 15, which is the latest version of it. So most applications that you have, from your social media to entertainment to gaming, are going to be supported on this device. And that A12 Bionic chip, 3 gigs of RAM, even if you're playing a little bit heavier graphic games, does support well. Or if you're simply using a device for just using it for Netflix or other video streaming service, this iPad definitely does get that job done. Even for things like social media, if you're using TikTok or Facebook, whatever, Instagram, whatever the case is, you'll be able to download your most popular apps, or even using it for music streaming, video streaming platform. You can definitely do this with this device here. So things like work, school, social media, graphic design, video streaming, all of that can be done for your work, play, and school as well. So it's gonna be worth it. And considering the price of this simply dropped almost half, which will leave the link in the description section, you can pretty much get the Mini 4 for around $200 to $250 depending on the storage and capacity you get. For example, this is the Wi-Fi model only, but you can also get the cellular version of it, so you can hook up put a SIM card in and have cellular data on the go. So hopefully this video is helpful for you guys looking to buy a Mini 5, or if you're comparing it to the Mini 6 here, it's going to be coming down to whether you want to spend almost $600 versus probably 1/3 the price for pretty much most of the things that a iPad Mini 6 can do. So I want to hear from you guys. If you guys use this device, have it around, or are using it, make sure you guys leave a comment in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.